This is BreakmanX, and welcome to the game show on April 23rd, 2025. How's it going, Jack?
It's going great. We made it. It is Switch 2 pre-order day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. You could be jeopardizing your place in line right now. Online, of course. And Logan, how are you doing this fine evening?
Doing good. And we've been enjoying the nice cooler day today after a crazy storm last night. It was fun.
Nice. And Darria, how are you this evening?
Pop out behind my face here.
That's what you get for not being here last week. I will punish you with a picture.
But no, I'm doing pretty well. I had a pretty busy work week so far, so I'm excited to get going on this.
Oh, nice. And your picture's gone. So ha. And of course, we've got our fabulous guest this evening who is actually a returning champion here to the game show. He's actually been on here previously in one of the old episodes. So really happy to have him back tonight. But the game show is a celebration of video games and our collective interest mixed with a healthy dose of humor while bringing in our favorite people in the game and movie industries on as guests. And tonight, as I mentioned, we have Leonard J. Paul, who began his work in video games on the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo Entertainment System and has a 20-year history in composing, sound design, and coding for games. He has worked on over 20 major game titles totaling over 6.4 million units sold since 1994, including award-winning AAA titles such as EA's NBA Jam 2010, NHL 11, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2, NBA Live 95, as well as the indie award-winning title Retro City Rampage, which you heard a little of there just before the intro. He is also the co-founder of the School of Video Game Audio, which is school.videogameaudio.com, and has taught game audio students from over 30 different countries online since 2012. His new media works have been exhibited in cities including Surrey, Bath, Victoria, Sao Paulo, Zurich, and San Jose. As a documentary film composer, he had the good fortune of scoring the original music for multi-award winning documentary The Corporation, which remains the highest grossing Canadian documentary in history to date. And he has performed live electronic music in cities such as Osaka, Berlin, San Francisco, Brooklyn, and Amsterdam under the name Freaky DNA. And you can check out more at videogameaudio.com. Leonard, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thanks for inviting me back. This is fun, and it's I need to update my bio. It's a problem when you get old. You're kind of like just the level of necessity of needing to keep it up to date is just like less because you're not in the sort of the race as much to try to like, I need to get this, get that. But I will add one thing, and we'll see if anybody knows. But I'll just throw it out there, and then I'll just so anyways, I did work on one additional game recently, doing music for a fairly big game as Freaky DNA. Does anybody know it? Got 2 seconds. Two.
Which platform? Can I get a hint?
PC platform basically.
PC.
Yeah.
I don't think I know, but I'm gonna feel dumb when you say it.
Okay, yeah. So, anyways, Counter-Strike. So, Counter-Strike Global Offensive. So,
oh my gosh,
that's
awesome.
A track for them. So, yeah, that's. For me, like as far as being a composer, that's kind of like it's amazing to get like commissioned where they just say like, hey, just do something, and then it gets put into this basically like one of the top franchises, which was super cool. So
that's really cool.
Cheers. Yeah, that was a big awesome. Win for me. So
that's fantastic.
I do need to update my bio to like include that. Yeah,
I have another reason to play that now. So that's great.
Yeah, cheers. Exactly.
And I want to let you all know, as you're watching, you can write in questions and comments, and Logan will be catching up and reading those on the air as we go. And Maximus Prime, I see that you say hello. Hello. All right. So let's get right down to it. And I just wanted to say really quick, I was saying this before the show, but Leonard, when he was on the show, and I think it was 2011, And before we started doing the show again, I just had him on kind of random. I was listening to some old ones to get some, inspiration and things like that. And Leonard's came up on random, and I was like, this is like a super interesting episode. Like, I actually listened to most of them. I'd listen to a couple minutes and then cringe and change. But that one, I actually listened to like the whole thing, and it was very interesting throughout. And I learned some stuff even listening to it again. So we should have another pretty fun one tonight. And we're all into music, and games. So it's going to be a nice mix. But
we'll try to minimize the cringe. We'll see how it goes.
we'll see. When I'm on board, you never know. But all right, so let's start out here. What drew you to music initially, and then to video game music in the first place?
Yeah, a lot of it was just that I had, just music in my family. I loved playing music. I did like a high school band when I was a kid. I played in a blues rock band, Mr. Mustard, and actually my buddy and I are still planning to like put out more Mr. Mustard tracks at some point. I just basically kept continuing that through university. So I went to Simon Fraser University. I did like a degree in electroacoustics, did a lot of electronic stuff there. And sort of like new music, not so much performance, but I do know how to play some instruments. I'm okay, playing. If I had to play live, basically it's sort of like, electric bass is kind of like my main instrument, but I also play drums, play a little bit of keyboard. I've just continued to do that throughout my life. I really love doing music and trying to do it mainly for fun. But it's interesting to be, asked about like sort of what I do with music. I don't necessarily do it like full time. For me, I sort of opted out of trying to make a full-time career at music. But these days, once again, like now that I'm sort of chilling out, cooling my heels, I feel like I want to do more live shows. I perform like live chiptunes. So these days I'm doing, I have a Commodore 64 here. I don't know if it'll actually twist to be able to get up. Yeah, it's actually quite interesting. Let's see if I can. So there's the Commodore.
There it is.
Yeah. And then I actually have like this crazy unit here, which kind of like nobody else has, and it's like a way to do MIDI stuff. This one does MIDI, but this does it faster. And I have other thingies that are, how do you say, they're my little little workshop and stuff like that. I've got like a mad scientist lab that I'm sort of working on new stuff. But the last time I performed, I was doing Sega Genesis stuff, and I have got more Sega Genesis things that I want to perform live too. So I want to do more live stuff. I talked to, actually one of the last gigs that I did was Danny Baranowski, so Danny B, who did like Super Meat Boy. Yeah, he's in town now, and so I'm wanting to do more like live stuff with him and some other folks that are in town too. So that's kind of where I guess I'm at, like with music these days. For video games, it's mainly just sort of like live. And then I do my main thing is education. So I teach video game audio, and I've taught like I said, to update the bio. I think I'm at like 65 different countries now. And we started in 2012, and so we do terms every 2 months. And so like I looked at it recently, and so like I'm at like term number 80. So it's really interesting. When I went to the Game Developer Conference to meet students and stuff, and some of them are like audio directors, and like I'm getting old.
It's gotta be pretty fulfilling though, right?
It's just cool. That's my main thing, and I really enjoy seeing people succeed at doing the things that they love, being creative and being able to make enough money at it so that they can actually make it a proper career and stuff like that, support their families, and also have like good balance these days, like be able to do the other things in life that are super important too. So anyways, that's a bit of a spiel from me. So yeah.
Well, that's great. We love the spiels.
That's awesome.
It's fun.
I got one quick question. So is it more fun to play the Commodore 64 live or the Genesis?
The Genesis. The Genesis it's just easier because like it's got, I don't know. And also I also have like the Nomad, so that I have that. Yeah. And so that one's a little bit just sort of more portable. And I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do the Commodore stuff. I might flatten it out. The same, I also did that with the Sega stuff as well. But yeah, the Sega stuff is honestly just sort of easier because it's got like sampled sounds, just higher resolution, and then I just love FM, so that's amazing. But the Commodore, the thing is that I grew up with one, and so it's just like, oh, it's got a vibe. It's got a real vibe. Like every one of the Commodores is different because of the sound chip in it, so they actually sound different.
Oh, that's cool. I love the uniqueness.
Oh yeah, no, it's like a design flaw, and they sort of somewhat fixed it, as they released new versions and stuff like that. But like, yeah, it's basically got like a very, I don't know, it's got a bit of magic to it that I really love. So yeah.
I like that. Jack, go ahead and kick off with your first question.
Yeah. So, I'm always curious. You've got an interesting path in your career. So, a lot of people, go from production and then, whenever they make their way to teaching in any capacity, and not necessarily the music field, but any field, I'm always interested to kind of understand what is it that made you decide to want to start teaching other people to do what you were doing, and what was your kind of path to making that transition?
Yeah, so like I started in video games in like '94, and so that was the Sega Genesis, like the SNES stuff, and that was Electronic Arts. And one of the people that I met there, I think the second time around that I was there, was Gordon Doherty. So he's audio director kind of guy, and he was teaching at a place called the Center for Digital Imaging and Sound. It became the Art Institute, and that was in 2001. And the main thing is that he was like, oh, I've got my class. I can't teach it because I'm doing other things. Can you take it over? And I was just like, okay, that's great. So I ended up teaching a class. I really enjoyed it. And also I gave a talk at the Game Developer Conference in 2003. And there was just so many questions of people that were asking, like, oh, hey, how can I learn more about this? Where can I learn more about this? And then I think it was I'm really bad with numbers. So like we'll rely on like our imaginary fact checker or whatever. Let's just pretend that it's 2005.
Yeah.
And then I ended up starting at the the Vancouver Film School, and so that was where I was just like, yeah, this is exactly like what I want to sort of continue doing. And they gave me a large amount of freedom to do that. I developed the game audio curriculum there. So yeah, I think one of the things that happens with games that's a bit different maybe than other disciplines is that, say, like I did programming, and so for me, like going into teaching was actually like a significant pay drop. So if I'm just, as far as other people coming into the field, like of education, I think it's an interesting thing that a lot of people sort of do on the side, but they don't necessarily focus on it. So for me, I was lucky enough at VFS to be able to well, it's not entirely true. I mean, I did continue to work on games, but like now that I have my own school, now I focus on, 70-80% or something like that. So
gotcha.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's awesome.
Very cool. And Logan?
Yeah, so there's a couple in the chat I'm going to hit up first, actually.
All right, let's do it.
Both from Maximus Prime. So the first one, Mr. Paul, what game do you think has the best music?
Game. Wow. How do you say that's like? It's like choosing the child that you love the best. It's just like all the games. All the games are different. They're all special in their own way. So. As far as, man, I don't know. I guess I'd have to do it like, personally, I haven't played a lot of games recently, but the style of game that as far as the music that I like it when people do weird stuff that sort of like fits and then also sort of withstands the test of time. So it's like, there's like, say, like Portal 2 could be like an example of that, where there's like really interesting music, but then also really interesting, like, like implementation. And that's part of the things that, like, I like teaching about is on that side of things, like say Grand Theft Auto, where they've got like a bunch of like procedural audio that's just, it sounds like regular, like, recorded stuff, but it's actually synthesized, like, and to bring it onto the music side, like there are, like, I don't know, Grand Theft Auto's, just their licensing procedure is just incredible. Like it's just, they're a phenomenon unto themselves. And then there's a bunch of indie games as well. So, gosh, how to choose? I guess there's, well, there's this amazing game, Retro City Rampage, but there's like there's other games as well. Like say, like Celeste is one that I think is pretty amazing music. And so Lena Rain has done amazing work. As far as on the technical side, the one that I'm most recently interested in is called Cocoon. And so that's by the audio programmer that worked on, on what was it called? It's Play Dead is the name of the company, but what is the game?
Limbo?
Limbo is the game, yeah. And then there's the other one that came after it, the sequel. And so Inside. See, that's the reason why I couldn't remember it, because it's just like, it's like I can see the game, but like, how does the name of the game correspond to the, you know what I mean? So anyways, So anyways, I think his name is Jacob, and so he's done amazing work there. And I, have talked to him about like years ago about his work. And so anyways, for me, those are the kind of games that I'm most interested in hearing, is where they're doing something, and even say like, something like Katamari Damacy, to me, those, just where it's kind of something that sticks in your head, where you're just like, that is weird. Like, like, it's just, I don't know.
It's just super eclectic, and like they're like, here's our motif. Everybody just go do what you want, and just make sure you include the motif, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and like for somebody that's worked in games, it's kind of like you're just like, how the f did that get out? Like like you're like when I start thinking about like how something like escaped, like basically sort of like death by art by committee, then I'm super interested in it. I'm just like, oh, okay. This is neat. So I mean, that's kind of the way that I lean. I like the weird stuff. So yeah,
awesome,
nice,
very good.
Okay, so second one from the chat for now. Also for Maximus Prime, what do you believe is the most fun part about making video game music?
I don't know. It's just gosh, I guess it's sort of related to that. It's where I like making music where I create something and then I finish it and then I'm like, wow, that's weird. Like I've never done that before. So a lot of the times I'll figure out new procedures or new ways of working or new instruments, and then I'll use them, like say even for Retro City Rampage, like I had not really done any tracking before then. So I had to learn how to do tracking and keep up with like, vert and like, basically like matte to not look horrible. So for me, I guess there's it is fun. It's fun to challenge myself and to figure out and say with the Counter-Strike Go song, what I wanted to do is this was like, okay, like I work with computers all the time and I'm going to try to go like DAW-less. And so what I did was so I used primarily like the Digitac was my that was my main piece of gear. And I did like the sampling on that. So that was like sort of the dubsteppy part of it. And then I was just like, okay, what can I mix with that? Well, I mean, I know a little bit of tracker stuff. Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's fit some like GBA in there as well. So sure, let's throw that in. And then there must be something else that we can add to this. I know what we'll do is that I'm going to talk to my buddy that she's like a operatic soprano. So let's throw that into the mix. And so then I just figured out how to combine all these different elements. And also it was just super fun working with her because I don't get to see her that often. So yeah, that was great. So I like collaborating with people as well when it's possible, and also playing, having the ability to play it live, and seeing people either dance or just react to the music, real time is fun too. So I guess to me that's part of it's not necessarily the composition side, but as far as playing live, to me I try to do stuff a little bit of a twist live, so that at least seems like there's something new happening. So
it's really cool.
I hope that answers that question.
Yeah. Okay, so
Very
I
good.
guess that kind of leads well into my question.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite tools for making music?
Favorite tools. Well, my new favorite tool that I've got is sort of behind me. It's a Pro One, so basically an expensive synthesizer, but I was gifted it because it was broken, and so I sort of, in a sense, rescued it not necessarily out of the garbage can, but like it's one of those things where it's kind of like having a nice older car that's like kind of rusted. You know, the engine's done, maybe the transmission's not so good, but you know, it's a pretty, you know, it's still, you know, salvageable. So to me, I want to use like that one more. I've got like an M8 by Dirty Wave. So that's Tim. That's basically sort of like LSDJ on steroids, if we can mix a few metaphors there. So, yeah, and then what I'm doing, and to continue the theme, I really like acid house, and so I'm actually working on TD3. So that's the Behringer sort of like, you know, like knockoff of the TB303 from Roland that has the sort of acid house sort of style. And I actually, that was an element that I forgot to talk about as far as for Counter-Strike Go. That was the fourth element, is that I put two TD3s in there. So I had like this screaming acid stuff going on in there too. So yeah, those are some tools that I like, and then I like, you know, I guess I said before, maybe, yeah. Anyways, I've got my little, you know, Commodore 64 here, which I'm hoping to, you know, that one is sort of, how do you say, it's waiting in the shadows. So yeah, that one will eventually happen, and you know, figure out how to play it live. And then there's the Sega Genesis. Oh gosh, and I don't know, like I also want to get, you know, back into acoustic stuff too, like, you know, whatever, playing probably drums would be my main thing, maybe some bass. So yeah, yeah, a few different things.
Nice.
Rock on.
Very cool.
All right, Darria, you're up.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about the School of Video Game Audio? What should one expect to learn, and what should they know going into the program?
Yeah, so the school is, I focus it on technical sound design. So basically, technical sound design is, you know, like often you'll still be, you know, need to know how to be a sound designer. So that's somebody that makes, you know, whatever footsteps and, you know, ambiances, those kind of things, and puts them into the game. And then we use different software, you know, often like, yeah, middleware. So that's like Wise by Audio Kinetic. And there's Fmod as well. That's another technology. And then we also teach Unity and Unreal as well. So the main thing for people that are kind of like looking to sort of hit it at an intermediate level is that if they're good sound designers, that's probably a good sort of starting point. I do help a little bit on the sound design side, but I focus really on the technical side. And then from there, you sort of have the first half of the course, which is, you know, the minimum amount is 1 month, but if people are working full time, then it's often 2 months or more. And so they sort of, you know, we get everybody on the same page. So I have people all the way from like, you know, audio directors they're taking the course and they're doing it for professional development. But then I also have people that are just starting out. Like sometimes I even have like I mean, I don't know necessarily, but like basically like people just coming out of high school that are also interested in just sort of like, oh, hey, I want to learn about this. And honestly, I think it's a good thing because like the courses are like, they're under $1,000. And so I think it's kind of almost better to see at that point if you're interested in like really doing it. Because like say at the Vancouver Film School, it was like, you know, 40 times that amount. And obviously they taught way more things and whatnot. But at the same time, let's just say 5 times sort of the cost. And so I think it's even good for people that are just sort of getting their feet wet to see like, oh, I want to try this out or that out, to try out the school. So yeah, the first half is just sort of getting everybody, you know, comfortable with the middleware, and then the second half is more the creative side of things, where we work directly on a demo reel to demonstrate like your skills to industry and stuff like that. So the idea being is that there's no grading and stuff like that. I don't think that that's super helpful in this context because basically you're combining like the technical stuff, which sure you can grade that, but then also there's all the creative stuff too, and how those meld together. I think that's really best shown by like an actual demonstration of like, you know, what you've done. And so we help students polish up their demo reels, and you know, that's the end of the course basically, and sort of those different sort of areas that you might be sort of wanting to work. And so yeah, like for people that are working in video games, they might take 2 courses to actually see like, oh, like, you know, Wise does it this way, but like Unreal does it totally different. And then say if you're working at a bigger company like Electronic Arts, then, you know, you'll have a better idea of like, you know, because they use a tool, well, currently, maybe not currently, but last time I heard,
Frostbite?
Yeah, Frostbite, exactly. And so they use Frostbite as far as I know, and they also hook in other things on the audio side too, sometimes to make it a little bit sort of stronger, depending on the game. It really depends. Sure. So yeah, and so like I can't teach Frostbite because I don't have access to it, but like sort of just the mere fact of like, say, like, especially if you learn, you know, Unreal, then you'll have a better idea of like how to do visual scripting. And for me, you know, like blueprints and visual scripting, I do pure data and stuff. To me, it's sort of a thing that I've been talking about for like years and years. So yeah,
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So yeah,
That's
basically
awesome.
it's meant to help out people of, you know, all different sort of levels. And the idea is really to sort of efficiently get and mentor those people to get into the industry and stay in the industry. So that's the reason why I say like I really do love music, but I can help people out with music and also music design, but I focus the course say like on technical sound design because I think that's where more of the jobs are. And I do know how to do programming, but I don't necessarily want to teach programming because it's like, you know, it's kind of harder to cram into like sort of 4 months. You know, I took like 8 years. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Very, very cool. So with all the soundtracks that you've made, going back to, you know, upsetting all your children, of the soundtracks you have done, what are your favorites? You can pick as many as you want to. Give something for people to listen to.
Yeah. I mean, the favorite, primarily because it's the most recent, is the Counter-Strike Go one. So that one to me, a lot of it is because it was a pure commission. So they were just like, you know, whatever you give us, we're going to put it in the game. I'm just like, that is awesome. That's true art, because usually you really have to like submit stuff and then it just goes through like literally art by committee. So it's like, you know, somebody filters it out and then somebody's like, no, it's got to be like this. And then the other person's like this. And then the other person's like, no, okay, can you make it like this? But don't tell that person, like, okay, can you fit this stuff in? And then you end up like, it gets, you know, it just ends up getting so sliced out that it's hard to like the end result, you know, after so many passes. So yeah, the Counter-Strike song. So that was Vici. So that was a couple years ago. I do really like, actually, there's a soundtrack that I did for Konami that's not very well known, but it's called Death Junior and the Science Fair of Doom. And so that is not a game that did well. So that was just on the Nintendo DS, and it kind of, you know, the franchise was okay to begin with, but then it just wasn't, I don't think it was marketed very well. And so they just sort of like, you know, shoved that one out the door. But I really like the music that I did for it. So I'm almost at the point of like wanting to buy the music back so that I can like release it, you know, like, you know, for a reasonable sum, Konami. I mean, please.
I say, I think
Konami's not
they'd
what
be
they once
okay.
were.
Yeah, if you just give them some money, I think they'd probably sell it back to you.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of, how do you say, like YouTube long tail on that. I can't remember when it was released, but the cool thing about that is that I basically did like a combo of like Primus, so like, you know,
oh my
weird
god, it's one of my favorite
stuff.
bands.
Yeah,
But yeah, and then combined that with like sort of Tim Burton-esque kind of like, a strange Nightmare Before Christmas kind of thing.
I'm gonna have to get that game now.
That's awesome.
I want to hear that.
Yeah,
That sounds like an amazing amalgamation.
Thanks. Yeah, that one I was really happy with. So a lot of the stuff is like odd meters, so like 7/4 or 5/4 timing, and it had to fit like on a Nintendo DS. So I had to also make the songs short. Anyways, that one I played live, like I guess it was in October-ish or so, and so that was fun. It was nice to bring that one back, and so that that one was one of my favorites as well. And then, I mean, for me, the Retro City Rampage soundtrack is big because it's just tracker stuff, and I really want to continue with that. A lot of the stuff that I do live with Sega Genesis is in a similar sort of vein, even though, like, this, the Retro City stuff is more NES style as far as the way that the sound spec is for the first game. But then the second one that I did the sound effects for, I didn't do the music for the second game. So that's Shakedown Hawaii. That one is 16-bit. So that's Matt Creamer did the soundtrack for that one. He did a great job. So I just did sound effects for that one. But cool. But Retro City was, I think, pretty. I don't know. I feel like I kind of, in a sense, kind of bet the farm on that one. So I was asked by Brian to do music for it, and I was like, okay, great. And then it was just like, okay, well, it'd be cool to get some other people. And I was just like, well, let's like reach out to this guy because, he knows how to do stuff. And that ended up being Vert. So Jake Kaufman, and he said yes. And he had a bunch of amazing sort of actually like Konami-ish kind of stuff that was like Nintendo Konami stuff. Yeah. And then Matt turned out he had like a death metal, like NES, like soundtrack that he had, like album that he'd done, and I listened to that and I was like, okay, this guy's freaking weird, we gotta get him on. And then it turns out like he's within driving distance of like both Brian and I, who are based in Vancouver. So I mean he's in Calgary now, I think, but so basically was the three composers. And like the game took a while to get out due to various things, and so we actually put a vinyl out first, and so that was I'm glad that I made the decided to take a risk on that, but it really was kind of stressful at the time. I was running out of cash. Like, it was getting to the point where I didn't have enough money to pay for it to get shipped up to Canada. It was printed in California, and they were about to basically like delete it, like garbage it. And I was able to get some more cash for it to get sent up, but it was getting pretty tight at that point. I'm financially I'm better now, but like back in those days it was just like, well, let's do music and stuff. And so,
rock on, man.
I know
exactly.
Yeah.
So that was pretty metal.
I gotta track down that death metal NES
exactly.
soundtrack too.
If not mental. So yeah. So those are some of them. And even like whatever I did some stuff on like. Anyways, it's hard to pick favorites. So whatever.
But so there's a lot of good stuff for people to listen to. I have to say that anytime you mention Primus, like I have to pick up an ear. So I'm gonna try that game out for sure. But Jack,
awesome.
Why don't you take over, sir?
Yeah, so Leonard, you mentioned Vert, Jake Kaufman, and Danny B a little earlier. Who are some of the video game composers doing work today that you really that you're impressed by, and that some of the games that really kind of leapt out at you that they've worked on?
Oh my, that is a good question. So for me, I guess it's been a long time, but I first met Will Roger like years and years ago, like in 2006. And so he's a composer that he's basically the Mortal Kombat composer at this point. Okay. And so, he does some great work. It's this, I think it's a very tricky thing to take on a franchise where they've got a vibe, and also a very expensive kind of they've got an idea of it's got to be like this and this and this, but then also extending it as well. So I think he's done a great job at that. Gosh, what else is there? Oof. I mean, I haven't played a lot of games recently, so I'm trying to think of. I mean, that's probably the best. I mean, I'm trying to think of other games where I'm really floored. I mean, yeah, like I listened to Cocoon, so for me that was amazing. A lot of it is because it's just on the technical side. I think it's pretty amazing. They made like, like real-time synthesizers and all this technical stuff to make things, like really come alive there. I guess, I mean, I don't know the composer, but once again, for me, I guess it's, again, the technical side, like the fact, like that Fortnite has like a music, like a jammable music kind of like engine in it, which is pretty cool, so that you can make your own, like, modular synthesizers and all that kind of stuff. To me, that's really exciting, is to basically bring the player into the game, to not necessarily, you don't have to play music and stuff, but it's like, it's like music adjacent. It's this thing that, you can pretty much do it. So yeah, to me, I like those games that allow for like creativity, so yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, the Harmonix has done an awesome job with the Fortnite stuff. I'm sad that they're not doing Rock Band anymore, but I'm glad they at least are, in the biggest game on the planet, right?
Yeah.
Very rad. And Logan.
Yeah.
Maul, I should mention, Maul isn't with us, by the way. His internet went out literally right before the show, so he's texting me. Otherwise, we would have a dark side presence with us as well. But go ahead, Logan.
Yeah. So, from your website, videogameaudio.com, your most recent talk was at the Game Sound Conference. Can you share with us anything from the talk? It looks interesting, covering CSGO, NBA Jam, Eco, and SimCell.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was asked by Brian Schmidt, the guy that puts it on. I've talked at the Game Sound Con, gosh, like I think I'm going to say 6 times, but it's been a fair amount. He and I have sort of similar backgrounds. He's a programmer. So Brian Schmidt, not only did he put together the Game Sound Conference, but he also did the sound, the logo sound for like the first Xbox. So he's worked on tons of titles. He worked at Microsoft for a long time, and he does contracting these days. He does teaching as well. And so, yeah, he asked me to do a talk talking about like sort of like an introduction to interactive music. And so that was, I guess, Game Sound Con was in late October last year. And yeah, I pretty much just I have enough work that I can draw upon things that I've actually done, and then I can show people exactly how I did them. And I had like I'm laughing, but I had like a very interesting comment where I think it was on, because I was showing what was it, NBA Jam. And I was showing the music, and then there was someone from the audience that was just like, "Yeah, that sounds good, even though it's very basic." And I was just like, "Thanks, thanks, I guess." But then also, I didn't want to be like, actually, like if I scroll down, there's a whole crap ton like more tracks as well. But you don't do that in a and I'm not, if that person happens to be listening, I'm not belittling you. It's just like, it's a very tricky thing when you're presenting live and you're kind of like trying to be gentle about like, because people ask questions and they're just curious and stuff. So
sometimes they come out wrong too.
I think so too, because it's pretty stressful to be, where it's just like, okay, now you have the mic. It's just like, oh my gosh. So, anyways, to me, I had a totally different response, like in my head, and I think I gave like a fairly good response to that. And there was also somebody that asked, like, oh, cool. So, like, now that you did a talk on like, like an introduction to like interactive music, like how do I get my music in a game? And I was kind of like, like that's the same thing as like asking how to get your music into Hollywood films. It's just, you really have to, be good enough to have an agent, and there's a whole thing. It's not like it was like, it can still happen, say like with indie games. You might work on an indie game where like, your friend, maybe it can become super popular. That's definitely possible. But like back, like in the days, like, 20-ish plus years ago, it was almost enough to just have like a MIDI keyboard and be like, oh, hey, here's my cousin, like they know how to make and record music. And then like, let's put some of their stuff in the game. And I will say that actually there is like a little way to sort of weasel stuff in, because I've done this. And so the trick is to actually, like you can work on audio on the game, and then you're just like, oh, hey, by the way, I actually do music as well. And then you wait and you don't be mean about it, but you just wait. And then if they hit a point where they're just like, okay, we're actually just needing like an extra song, then you're like, oh, actually, I might be able to help with that. Just saying. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that is a way these days, that you can sort of sneak things in. So I guess for me, maybe that happened with like NBA Jam. Like I had remixed, all the songs, but as far as getting my own song in there, it really was the last sort of 11th hour, and they were like, okay, we need a track for the tutorial, and so it's like, okay, whatever. So I put together something pretty quickly. So that is sort of a way to sort of sneak things in there. But yeah, in general, it's a tricky thing. So as far as the talk for Game SoundCon, yeah, it's actually online, so you can have a look. It's on my YouTube playlist. So yeah, if you look up my name and stuff like that, I recorded the whole thing, and there was actually audio difficulties, live, and I fixed those in the recording. So
very cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah,
I'll have to check that out. I'll see if I can find it and throw the link in the chat.
Yeah, totally.
I'll put it in the show notes as well. Logan, do we have any chat? Oh, we're gonna hit the chat. Sorry.
Okay, no, you're good. You're good.
Then it's all you.
One from Johnny Graphics referencing earlier point in the conversation. I loved us Junior. Played it on PSP, I think.
Oh, cool.
Cool. Thank you. Please buy another copy.
We should all buy 5. No, hey Johnny, it's cool you're listening too. All right, Darria. I didn't mean to get you earlier, but now it's all you.
No, you're good. But on the topic of like talks, where can we find you next? And do you know what topics you'll be speaking on?
Oh gosh, it's a good question. I mean, like I've said, one of my main interests these days is kind of implementation and doing sort of combining with that either strange sound design or strange music stuff. So probably if I can do it, I'll do a talk sort of like that. So yeah, I'm looking to do maybe something to do with procedural audio or procedural music would probably be one that would be coming up. As far as places coming up, it's tricky to say because I don't have anything confirmed, so I'd rather not necessarily put it out there. But I have spoken at the Game Developer Conference a lot and Game SoundCon a lot too. So one of those might be a place where would be a good venue for me to do another talk too. And those are sort of the easy ones for me to get to. There's also PAX is possible, but PAX Dev seems to have gotten smaller, and gosh, I don't even really know. I mean, I did Game Audio Norway a few years back, and that was really cool. They sort of chilled out on that for a bit, but it looks like they're going to resuscitate that. Cool. Yeah, there's a few different sort of places that I might be able to talk at. There's also there's a game. Oh gosh, I think it's a Game Audio Conference in Puerto Rico. So that one's pretty cool. There's one also, and it's called maybe something or other, a Game Audio Symposium or something in Leeds in the UK. That's coming up in May-ish. I don't know. I'm not so good with dates. I'm not in that one, but anyways, these are other ones that are coming up as well. But if you're interested in seeing more of my talks, then YouTube's kind of the way to go. And as far as knowing when I'm about to do a talk, I'll probably put it on my school's socials. So these days I have the school on LinkedIn, on Mastodon, which is kind of weird, but and then also Blue Sky, and nice. X is not a thing anymore.
What's that?
Let's just keep it at that. It's just done. We're done with X.
Well, we'll follow you on Blue Sky for sure.
Cool.
That's kind of my thing these days too.
Yeah, so I hope that helps if you're interested in seeing upcoming talks and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. So again, I have to do the dreaded. If you like what you're seeing, give us a like and subscribe. And moving on.
I do have an additional question. So if somebody wanted you to come speak for at an event or something like that, what would that process be like?
It's super easy. I basically just email me. It's at the bottom of videogameaudio.com or on school.videogameaudio.com. then you just email me, and then that just goes to me directly. I don't have any, whatever manager, like booking agent or anything like that. A lot of it is if it's a nice enough place and stuff like that, then I will often be interested. I'm not trying to be mean, but like that's part of the reason why I haven't attended MagFest yet, because it's like it's darn cold and it's January and it's like like I'm from Canada and like I'm scared of going to like MagFest in January. That's but I am interested in going at some point. I've never gone yet, so. Basically just email me, and that would be the best way to do it. I don't do a lot of talks necessarily. I guess I'm just getting lazy, doing other things, maybe, let's say. But email's the best. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question, Darria. All right. So this is a question we like to ask, or I like to ask all of our guests, and it's always fun to see the response. So, all right, you've got all the time cleared on your schedule, and think of this as if you'd kind of be experiencing it in the same way. So, like at the same age or whatever, you wouldn't have any of the modern cynicism or anything. What game would you most like to erase from your memory and experience again for the first time?
Probably Mission Impossible.
Oh, really? Which system is that?
It's Commodore 64.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Or Impossible Mission. I always get it reversed. I don't know. Yeah, Impossible Mission.
Does it have the theme song?
There's no theme song, but it's just like whatever. Welcome, stay a while, stay forever. And then when you fall down the elevator shaft, it's like
It's got some amazing audio. That's basically like, you're like jumping over robots and stuff like that the entire time.
Yeah, I love the sound of that of the Commodore 64. I mean, all those systems have different. The PC Engine has some interesting sound chip too.
Yeah. So that's probably the one. Sorry, that's Impossible Mission. I always get that.
Cool. That's our first Commodore 64 answer. So that's pretty rad.
Sweet. Yeah.
Nice.
No, that one is it's super fun, and it's got a great combination of you have to do it's literally a puzzle. Like you have these puzzle pieces that you find, but the main thing is that to try to for me, the way to beat it is that you have to actually just, when you hit a room that's hard to clear, then you actually just need to go somewhere else. Whereas it's just so hard to just be like, no, I can totally jump that fast guy. No, I got it this time. And you're just like, okay, it's better to come back with a snooze the robots, and then you can like easily jump over them and like clear the level, like clear that room. So it's an interesting exercise in like self-restraint.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
Yeah, that's a fun game.
It's your turn.
So you kind of hinted at it a little bit earlier, but I'm kind of interested. What's your creative process for a video game soundtrack look like? I obviously, video game development itself is pretty fluid, and I imagine that the creative process, when somebody comes to you either looking for a soundtrack or audio design, it's got to be a little awkward at some phases because just the way that game development works. So, like, how do you even get started anywhere?
Yeah, well, for me, the number one thing is communication. So the thing about music is that it's very abstract. It's a vibe, it's a thing that is very hard to put into words. It's just like, make it more orange or more blue. Like, what does that mean? It's just like, sure, make it louder. And then, like, honestly, some of the hardest things are when you have people that are actually music folks that are on the other side that are like, trying to guide the process, and they're just like, actually, can you make it more like this? And you're just like, I don't know how that works. Like you have a thing in your head, and the main thing I think for like as a composer is to figure out how to draw that out. So a lot of the times what I'll do is that I like to work with, like I like to do stuff that I think that I'm good at. So like if I get asked, like once again, like Counter-Strike Go was amazing because they're just like, hey, just do what you do, like literally, and we're not even going to review it, and you just whatever you give us, it's going to go in there. So but the how do you say, the test is that it's going out to a lot of people. So if you put out something that's not so good with your name on it, everybody's gonna know.
Yeah.
So it was how do you say, it was cool, but also like frightening as well. So for that kind of like on a commission based thing, what I'll do is that I'll try to come up with a lot of sketches. And then like I was saying, I like to sort of narrow in on sort of technical things, like sort of my materials, my mise en scène, like figure out what my colors are and stuff like that, get everything all prepared. And then I'll just iterate on that, and I'll just do stuff like, jam out things live, make out like, and record things. And then I'll leave a little bit of space and then listen to things. And then I'll often sort of, just do continuous passes, find out what works well. And then eventually I'll sort of pick a winner and then go with that. It's kind of like a bit of a tree process where you're kind of, want to be really creative at the beginning, and then if you're working with other people, then you have to polish those creative bits a little bit, because sometimes if you were to show people that, they'll be just like, you have no idea what you're doing. So that you have to also be careful too, because sometimes it freaks people out when you show them like rough sketches. So that is an interesting process too, to try to know what to present and how to respond. And that's a huge thing, to know how to respond to critique, because a lot of the times like if I like something, then it's very difficult to just have somebody go like, yeah, this thing that you like, it's just, oh, thanks. I guess that version's not going anywhere. Yeah. Or maybe I'm going to put it in a better game.
Oh, there you go.
But anyways, just saying that, like it is an interesting, a lot of it is just communication. So you're trying to figure out what the team or what the creator wants, and your job as a musician, composer type person is to figure out how to follow through on that. And I'd say like when I had, every game's different. So say like with Retro City Rampage, I literally didn't know what I was doing as far as tracker stuff. So I spent a lot of time like, just woodshedding, like figuring out like what commands do I have available to me. I don't know, like I can change a volume like this, or I can change pitch like this or like this. And it took me a while to figure that out. And so I made many different versions, and so I got them to sort of presentable-ish points, and I'd send those to Brian. And then, actually, this is like funny-ish, is that, and so I sent him all this stuff, and I was just like, okay, and then I got better at it. And so he had all these sort of, rough sketches and stuff. And then later on, he didn't tell me, but then he put those like some of the sketches into the game. And then when I listened to it, like I looked at it on YouTube, and I'm like, that's bizarre. Oh, interesting. He actually put that into the game, which is, it's like, Brian, could you, it's
not a finished product.
Yeah, I know, exactly. It was a bit of a surprise. I mean, I'm fine with it. It's all fine, because the thing is that if it was really not good, then he would not have wanted associated with the product at all. But it was a bit surprising. And so, then also like sometimes, as far as the creative process, let's also say like just like about a month ago or so, somebody had taken like one of the tracks that was, I guess you'd say like a mid-level kind of like quality track that I'd done, and then they just like did this like, I don't know, sort of dubstep remix of it. So I was just like, sometimes like the creative process is like, you do a thing and then you release it, and then people continue to do their own thing with it, which I think is pretty amazing too. So I think that to me, I like to see I don't know, I just very into creativity overall. So that's awesome. Yeah,
very cool, really cool.
Awesome. Logan, your turn, sir.
So, do you have a favorite new tool to play games? Like a favorite accessory, or like a controller, or you get into like game modding with like modded consoles, or like a scaler, anything?
Oh my goodness. Favorite? Gee whiz. Okay, yeah, sure. I know what it is. So I bought the Analog Pocket, and that thing is rad. Yeah. And so it just does all the things, and now that it's got all the cores out, it's insane, and it just does all the things, and it's got so much computing power in it. It's just it's very accurate, and I can take it anywhere. But then I also I have Nano Loop on it, so I can create stuff that way. But then more so, I actually use it as a LSDJ. Like a portable thingy, because I've got like my GBAs, I've got a couple of the SPs, and they're good, but like the just the sound and stuff, because it just plays everything back really nicely, and the screen is stupid gorgeous. I mean, it's really nice. Yeah. It really is a nice unit. People, I mean, there's a plus minus of different people, but for me, I'm just like, I don't care. I'm not watching all those YouTube videos. I'm just going to play the thing, and it's great. Like I think it's an amazing little unit. So yes, I've been playing games on that, and it's just fun because it's portable, so I can take it where I want. And then if I don't want to play games, I can just take the card out and then put in LSDJ and like do some composing. So there you go.
Nice,
the multi-tool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, very cool. Darria.
So, kind of on that topic, what would be the game that you play when you have just a couple of minutes and need something to relax, like your quick play game?
Okay, this one I totally know. Actually, this one is just like, I'm going to rehearse this one. So, 100% Tetris Attack, SNES.
Oh,
so for me, love that game. It's great. Choice. I have gotten, I'm just saying, pretty good at it. So basically what I do is that I have it on the Wii. So like, I just, I've got the homebrew, whatever, just, whatever. This Nintendo's gonna Nintendo, so I'm gonna use the homebrew on the Wii. So
they don't mind.
No, they don't. They super don't mind. They super don't mind. I just love how they got like nailed for putting out cracks like on their official system. I was just like, okay, that's a good one. You should have checked that before you looked a little bit through the code.
They were also didn't they use like an emulator that they went after or something at the Nintendo Museum?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
I love Nintendo games.
Yes, exactly. Nintendo games. Totally. But yeah, Tetris Attack is great. So I've got it on the Wii. I've got a save point for the final boss, and then I just play against Bowser. And for me, I just try to riff through that super quick, and that's about
cool.
a 3-minute experience. It's got great music and whatnot, and it forces me, because it's like that game is for me all hands on deck. So if I play that's erases whatever thoughts I had before. So. Yeah, if that'll be my how do you say, cage match game if I ever have to play anybody in video games, it'll be Tetris Attack, because I play almost nothing else.
There you go. Well, you're prepared. So high up on my list of games, and especially game music, is Mega Man. Where does Mega Man music place on your pantheon of game music?
No, it's very high. I think that the team, well, I guess I forget what her name is, but the composer for Mega Man, the Mega Man 2, I believe. She worked on I think it was Shovel Knight as well. And
Yep.
Yeah, okay, cool. not getting everything wrong, so that's good. But that music is very inspiring. And actually, I did do music-ish for a Mega Man game, but not. Yeah, it was called Roko-chan. So this was like an album that was like made for this video game that was based on Mega Man, but it was like basically instead of the dude, it's like Mega whatever lady or something like that. So Roko-chan, it was in Japan, and so there was the composer had done all the music for it, and then we did like a chipped version of it, and so I actually really liked the music for that one. So that one is
cool. I'll have to check that out for sure.
Yeah, that one was Boss. So I think one. I forget the name of my track on it, but if you look up Roko-chan on Bandcamp, you'll find it. And that one I play live. And man, that one just like kicks live. And that's one of the first songs that I ever did that's actually like NES, that'll run on an NES. So like all the Retro City Rampage stuff is all done on OpenMPT. So that's like, it's NES style, and like it wouldn't take that much effort. Well, it would take a bit of effort to like move it over. This is what AI is for. I want AI to take all that and like recompose it and like fit it and just do all the boring stuff and like make it work.
And not the NES.
Yeah, exactly, because it's super close. But that was, the Roko-chan remix that I did was one of the first ones, that I did for the NES, like actually using FamiTracker, which, that was a cool track to work on.
Is that like Rock Band, like Raku-chan? Is that?
Yes, okay. Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just so I can find it later.
I'll check it out. You need the mnemonics to remember that. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. All right, Jack.
All right. Yeah. So, obviously you've worked with juggernaut publishers like EA on things like NBA Jam and NHL. You've worked with indie devs like VBlank on Retro City Rampage. What are some of the pros and cons with each of those different teams from your perspective?
Yeah, so let's say, I'll just bring it back to like, for me, a lot of it is about the creativity and like sort of hitting that sweet spot of where you're doing something newish and you have the capacity to, hopefully have people like listen to it. Because a lot of the times you're going to be making stuff all in your basement, like nobody will ever hear it, which, sure, that's creative, but to actually get, kind of like brought onto a team and paid to do stuff is sort of where I'm at with, especially like we're saying with those collaborations. So say with Electronic Arts, say with NBA Jam, it was awesome because like EA, they didn't really know when we were working on the game that it was cool. So what happened is that the producer was super smart about it. So what he did is that he basically kind of like, flew it a little bit under the radar. So he kept, I guess, like a reasonable sized budget, stuff like that. But, it wasn't until like the game was basically done and then marketing sort of like looked at it and they were like, oh, dang, like, this is not kind of like a straight to video kind of vibe. Like we got to, do something with this. Yeah. But at that point, basically it was sort of too late to change it, and so we had like in NBA Jam, I just think that they captured the vibe of like, sort of like that franchise in a really great way. So like the big head stuff, it's just stupid. And like the fire on fire mode, it's just stupid. Like it's stupid fun. And so you're playing with your friends and like, it's fun. And so a lot of the times working with larger games, like say with, sometimes, let's say whatever. So I worked on NHL and like, I'm not saying that the game is not super fun, but like, it's just like, copy paste. Like it's like, they need to put out like, they need to hit their margins and stuff like that. And I also actually worked on and I worked on the first NBA Live, like at EA, which was very creative and like fun. And they were just like, hey, we're making a basketball game, and they were like, hey, we have enough pixels like to basically give Dennis Rodman different hair color. Yeah, so that was like a big feature.
Yeah, that was like the first one where they actually got all the NBA teams in it, isn't it?
I think so. I think, so that was the first NBA Live. And so I was just like, okay, cool. And then I kind of like, in a sense, like while I was working on NBA Jam, so that's 2010, I sort of worked on the last, like peripherally on the last NBA Live, and that one didn't even make it out the door. So there's certain times that things they just get axed that because a lot of it sounds strange, but the sort of split a lot of the times, especially with larger games, it's 50% marketing, 50% production. And so if they axe it during production, they're actually saving a lot of money. But as a creator, it sucks, especially on the large games, because you can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to take my music and take it. No, it's already all paid for. So it's like, it's sunk. Like you can't do anything with it. So I just worked on what did I work on with that game? I think I worked on. I was going to work on music, and it didn't even make it there. I don't think I could necessarily say who was going to be working. I don't know if it was public or not. But anyways, they had some, music person that was going to do most of it, a composer. And then as far as for the indie stuff, like say with V Blank with Brian. That kind of like, the fun stuff there is on the other side of the fence where he I think a large part of his learning process with the first game was just to how to deal like professionally with large publishers, which it ends up being pretty difficult. And that's part of the reason why the game came out later than it was going to, is because he had sort of signed up to do some things with, I think it was primarily with Microsoft, and then Microsoft was kind of like, actually we're going to do it like this. And he was like, no, I don't think so. And so that ended up being a pretty big battle that I think in the large part, like he won, but and I think there's articles online and stuff about that process. But when you're working on a smaller team like that, then sometimes it's just like, I guess that's the other side of the fence of like, is this game going to come out or not? So and then I guess it's also just the sort of, not so much like his inexperience, like he knew what he was doing on the programming side, but just that you have to do everything. Whereas in a large team, there's just like, there's other people that do that. So I think a huge difference is just, you don't have to deal with marketing. You can gripe about them and be just like, I can't believe like marketing's going to make us do this and portray the game this way. But like when you work in an indie title, you're just like, oh my God, I wish I had somebody that would listen to me. So it's kind of like, it's a real challenge one way or the other. And that's the thing actually with my school that, I'm doing pretty much the whole thing. I have 2 other people that I contracted to help me out, but like the marketing side of things is actually a lot harder than one would think when you get into it. Yeah, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to find out how to get people to listen to your amazing thing, your game that's going to come out, especially with just all the noise that's out there these days, and like how much are you going to spend? How much time are you going to spend on it? You still got to make the game, like all these things. It's marketing is, I have new respect for marketing, newish. I mean, I have a continued respect for marketing. So. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks. That's a really cool perspective, because like, you just hear about some of the battles that get fought with, when like you said, when games get, canceled that are public, some games that don't come out that are indie games nobody ever hears of. So it's always interesting just to see what's going on behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
All right, Logan, you're up.
Yeah. So describe a level or experience from a game that sticks into your head to the point where when you think good design, it just immediately comes to you.
Oh man, good level design. Oof. Gosh. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like the whole game of Limbo feels like amazing level design. Just, but as far as like a game where there's like where you pop into something and you're just like, oh wow, they really thought this out. Oh, gosh, I think you might have stumped me on that one. It's because a lot of, like I said, a lot of the stuff that I play is like sort of Tetris attacky kind of like, flinchy kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
as far as like different levels, as far as like more narrative kind of based stuff, that's not necessarily the kind of game that I've been playing these days. I wonder if I can like pull one out from like a long time ago. Like even games that I've worked on. I don't know, like.
Well, it could even be like, I guess, like the more or less narrative based and more just like a mechanic or some kind of design feature of the games that you typically like to play. Like, which one feels to you like it's a well designed mechanic or experience as opposed to just like a specific level?
Yeah, the design side of things. I haven't played it a lot, but the one that I did look at like a while back was It Takes Two, and so I like collaborative games. And then also I worked on a game called Eco, and so I guess for me, like just I guess I like collaborative games. Maybe if I can say that as a mechanic. And like the game Eco, I think like this is a good example of that, where I was more of the music director. I didn't do the music for that, but then I did a lot of the sound design, and they have I think they're continuing with the game, trying to figure out how to sort of get it to a wider audience. So I worked on that game for I don't know, I think about 3+ years or so. And so that game was really neat to work on, to see how they really had an interesting feedback process. Because the game was live, it was basically sort of, I guess, it was on Steam, so people could download it and play, but it was still being in development, so it's kind of like a bit of like live services, but also they had a lot of, like design things that they were tweaking over time to respond to the gaming community. So yeah, that was an interesting process to be sort of part of that. So maybe that's a better example, is that where the design kind of evolves depending on like what the player feedback is. That's kind of one of the only games that I've been on that actually does that, and it was very cool to see certain things that came in. Not a lot of things like disappeared that I was just like, oh man, I really enjoyed doing that. It was more like things that were added where I'm like, oh, that just makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, like good design is kind of transparent. You're just like, oh, this just works. Whereas bad design is just like, why do I hate this? Like, why is the game fighting me? So like bad design is kind of like, it's like the default. Whereas good design, it's one of those things it's hard to put your finger on. And honestly, I'm not very good at it. I tend to be a person that likes making things super complicated. So now these days, like, say with my last, sort of release, is that I try to break things down into like smaller and like, not using a computer and just making it so that like I have very limited amount of elements. Same thing with like working with like chiptune stuff, is that I only have like, certain amount of channels. And so for me, that's sort of the way that I approach sort of, a more focused design, is to limit my tools. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. It's really fun hearing your perspective on all this stuff, because I just love video game music and creativity. So hearing all this come together has really been fun. So,
Cool.
Darria.
So all of us are here because we love video games. How did you initially discover your passion for video games?
Gosh, I don't even know if I can remember. I mean, I've been playing video games since like, I don't know, like I do remember. Whatever. So I started working in video games in '94, so I'm older. So like my first console that I did not have, but my buddy down the road had, was an Atari 2600. And when he got Battlezone for that was mind blowing. It was just like, oh my gosh, like it, like, because basically when you started that console, it was just like, oh, here's a game, Pong, and you see like the little paddles and the dot, and then you go to Battlezone, which is like 3D tanks, and like it was like, I was just oh my gosh, this is insane. Like, so anyways, that was I remember, like definitely getting into Battlezone. We also played Pitfall, and then we like totally blew through a whole summer playing like Ultima. We played another game, Wizardry. So I played a lot of games with my buddy then. And part of the funny thing was, my family knew what was going on, but at the same time, it's not like we had one at home. Like I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go biking. It's just like bike over, ditch the bike, and then like start video games. And it's just like super sunny outside. It's just like roll the blind down. It's like, so anyways, I do love being outside, but it was a funny thing, being a kid and like just it was just so. Well, I mean, obviously you've heard other stories from other people, like, and your own story as well. So like video games are just one of those things that it's just it really is a magical moment when you go from like, oh, like I can change what's on the, the television, or, like I'm part of this thing, and it's like incomprehensible, like how it works. And then honestly, when you work on games, then it's just like, then you understand a little bit more, but then for the games that are really amazing, then they're similarly like incomprehensible. Like, how did they ever do that? Like, so yeah, it's the level is always like just, you know, like ramping up and ramping up. So yeah, for me, that was it was the 2600 is sort of, you know, that was my main thing. And so like I've got like I was saying on the analog pocket, I'm pointing over there because it's in the little, you know, drawer. Anyways, so it's got like, you know, a stupid amount of Atari 2600 games on it. And just like from a technical perspective, like the fact that those games, like, you know, graphics, you know, like gameplay, sound, all that stuff like fit into 2 kilobytes, you know, like on the cartridge.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is insane. So it's really, you know, how far we've come since then to like, you know, and also how far we haven't come, because like some of those games, like, you know, like they're incredible, you know, partly due to those limitations, but also that somebody was able to capture, you know, like creativity or imagination, and just like, you know, sometimes like a lot of love went into those games. And like you can just feel that when you're playing it. You're just like, this is magic. And so yeah, for those type of experiences, that's what I really love about games.
Yeah, no, awesome. It's pretty incredible. Yeah, and one of the things too I think about a lot is, if anytime I've talked to anybody that's made video games, and I don't know if you feel this way too, but like it seems like everybody I talk to is just like, it's a miracle anything gets released at all. Like it's just a miracle that you get a finished product that actually gets out on a shelf, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Like, well, gosh, what would be the best example of that? I mean, Retro City Rampage was pretty interesting for it. Like, you know, it was pretty close there for a while, because it's just one guy basically doing it. I was doing, you know, sound design stuff, and then, you know, we had a couple of people doing music, and they also had a help with graphics. But, you know, that was pretty close to, you know, I mean, it would have gotten done, you know, and sort of out there, but the way that it did, like during that time period, like, you know, sort of Super Meat Boy kind of like time period, and like, I guess also Fez and stuff like that, you know, independent games that were just getting released around then. That really was like, for me, a pretty magic time to be part of the industry. So it was nice that you know, game did, you know, reach the light of day. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other games that I've worked on that did not. Okay, so this is one that, it's funny because I can't even put it like, you know, on my website because there's no game. But anyways, I worked on The Sims.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Not that you would ever know, because the game never came out. So it was, but it did in a certain sense. So like it was a bit of a strange one. So this was at Electronic Arts. The composer at the time, Traz Damji, who's done many titles. He worked on that first like NBA Live 95 and many other sports games, and he continues to compose music these days. And so he was busy, and he's just like, oh hey, you know, like, Leonard, can you do this? You know, whatever. We're doing this in-house sort of, you know, demo thing for this, you know, it's basically sort of like a tech demo internally. And so I forget what the code name was for it, but basically it was The Sims, but it was The Sims Online. And so it was this, you know, franchise that became quite big. And so I was producing like sort of temp, you know, music for it, where they're just like, okay, like we need some, you know, music that would sound like this, and then like, you know, make some music and like, oh, or like, you know, like this. But it was really in a certain sense, it was a prototype. It was never meant to be released, but it was super fun to like work on that. And it was just interesting because the team, honestly, it was more balanced. So there's more dudes versus like non-dudes, you know, like it was, because in the industry it's a lot of guys on average, and so it was just neat to be part of a team where it just felt like, wow, this is like, I just feel like I'm in normal society, like, you know, like I could be somewhere like in a different business versus like, you know, usually EA it just happens to be, you know, a bit skewed, which is unfortunate. So that game was, I guess you'd say that prototype was really fun to work on. But yeah, in a sense, it was never meant to be released. And then, you know, it's become kind of a thing, I've heard, you know. So not to say that I was part of the actual franchise, but it was neat to be part of the prototyping process, anyways.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, because the Sims Online, it's got a apocryphal following kind of behind it, and just the stories around it and what happened with it is always interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we've already talked about your favorite video game soundtrack, but I didn't know if you could just list some of the ones that you really like. It doesn't have to be like your favorite, but just it's fun to get like just a list of like new soundtracks for folks to listen to.
Oh, new soundtracks.
Or they don't have to be new. No, they could be.
Okay.
Why I just mean maybe new to them.
New to them. Well, the Katamari Damacy one is a favorite of mine. That is not a new game, but I really love that soundtrack. It's
coming in my head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess I like a lot of the Japanese stuff. So, like, even like it's not a game, but like the Wii Shopping Channel.
Oh yes. It's like one of the top listened tracks on the Nintendo app. Yeah.
So there's stuff like that, which is it's stuff that like sticks in your head. What else would be music that I've actually listened to recently off of games? I'm trying to. I'm very like stuck in the retro mindset because that's what I've been playing on the Analog Pocket. So. Some of that stuff doesn't even have soundtrack, like like Galaga and like little bits and pieces like that. Unfortunately, I'm not the best reference for like modern-ish soundtracks. I'm sorry about that.
What's the Genesis one you like? Because I know you like to play the Genesis live.
Yeah, so as far as Genesis stuff, the stuff that I really love is what's it, Batman and Robin. Yeah, that one has an amazing soundtrack. It's just
an interesting one too.
Yeah, it's like basic, kind of like hardcore techno.
Yeah.
So that one is pretty hardcore. So I like that one. I mean, there's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is pretty good.
Yeah,
like that one too. And then Sonic is definitely like burned into my brain. So, yeah, amazing composition and just the sound, like the design of the instruments in that, with it being sort of like a launch title, is pretty cool too. Because like FM synthesis was actually quite new back in those days. I remember the guy that did Marble Madness, when they released Marble Madness on the arcade, like they actually had to figure out like the sound chip, how it actually made sounds, because it was like a new thing. Because I think it was Yamaha just recently licensed like FM synthesis from like Stanford, and so they actually had to figure out how this new synthesis method even worked. So. Yeah. So for me, Marble Madness, the arcade version is pretty cool. A lot of soundtrack stuff that I listen to is off of Kohina.com. So I listen to a lot of classic kind of. I mean, it's a bit Euro, kind of focused. There's still a lot of Japanese stuff in there, but that's sort of like more of this sort of golden age of there's a bit of Sega Genesis, but there's a lot of Commodore 64 stuff in there.
Like Amiga stuff.
And Amiga stuff, that's true, yeah. Like around that time period. So, yeah.
Cool.
It's such a cool period of music.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the reason why I want to do the chiptune stuff. I want to, I like it as well.
Oh, I love chiptunes. I feel like I love it more as the years goes by. Like I've always liked it, but for some reason, the farther we get from that in video games, the more I pine for chiptunes. It's weird. But.
If only I were young again.
Yeah, bring it back.
Yeah.
Jack, your turn, sir.
Yeah, so obviously, I found out we were having you on. I kind of was looking through your bio, and the documentary that you did music for, The Corporation. I got really intrigued by that because I had remembered seeing some ads for it, and I think it got a little bit of Oscar buzz the year it came out. But the project itself seems really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about it? And like, do you know if there's any place anybody can watch it right now?
Yeah, so it did win, I think it was an audience award at Sundance. So that was sort of one of the bigger awards. And then it won many other sort of like audience awards and things like that. I think it did quite well that way. And, oh gosh, as far as the synopsis of the documentary, it's just this notion of the corporation as psychopaths. So, as like, like basically like runaway capitalism, it means often, like as far as prescribing a psychosis to it is like, psychopathy. Because you've got like, these CEOs that are just like, like endless expansion and like, basically like increasing shareholder, like whatever returns at all costs, environments, people, everything. And so that's sort of the principal sort of guiding, focus of the movie. But one of the things that was interesting on the technical side of it was that the director Mark Akbar had figured out this interesting sort of like two-way mirror, like half mirror kind of filming method that allowed him to have the camera and have it so that he was able to look, so it was like a half mirror or something like that, where he was able to look at the person being interviewed, but then the camera was looking straight as well, like at the person being interviewed as well. So it gives this very like immediate kind of like feel to it when these CEOs are being interviewed. A lot of the people being interviewed are CEOs, and it's amazing to hear what some of them say, where you're just like, oh my gosh, like that is like, it's kind of,
hurt your soul.
I don't even know. Yeah, it is, but it's also kind of like, I mean, we've just had, because this was like years and years ago, so I can't remember when the movie was released, whatever, check the internet for the date and stuff like that. But back in those days, we were still sort of like, the big reveal, like at some point, was this like, oh, weapons of mass destruction, like, like actually, oops, that was actually a thing. Like we lied about that, and like, big deal. And people were like, oh my gosh, they like lied about stuff. Whereas now, we are just simply in a different reality, and so
post-truth.
Exactly.
Almost.
Yeah. And so like back in those days, like with the corporation, like people were still trying to like, fake it, as far as just like, no, like, what our company's doing is like good stuff. And like, we're just trying to do this and this. And it's just like, well, what about this? It's just like, well, actually it's like, so to me, that was it's really about the interview. So for the music, what I wanted to do was to not be like, dun dun dun, like, where you overly like, lead the viewer. You just want to keep them in sort of a bit of stasis of where it's just this holding, kind of a bit more like a miasma, like this thing of where you're just like, this doesn't feel right, but I'm gonna try to make my own decision. So a lot of the stuff that I composed for that was really like, it was using a lot of granulation, so a lot of really extended textures and kind of like suspension and like things that would work well with a lot of dialogue, because that the movie is full of dialogue. So it's just sort of figuring out how to keep the music out of the way. And so that's what I was doing with the the composed part of the soundtrack. And then there was a lot of license stuff that was put into the film as well. And it actually came out with a sequel a few years ago, and so I got my theme music back in there, which is nice. But there was another composer that did the main composition for that. But that film did okay. But I think it was like that film was very timely. And so if you want to watch The Corporation, the great thing is that it's free. You can just watch it on YouTube. The whole thing's on YouTube. The director uploaded it to YouTube. Dang. So if you want to watch the whole thing, it's just look for The Corporation film and you'll be fine. And even if you look at their website, they just direct you to YouTube and you can have a look there. And I think a lot of what's sort of the legs of the film at this point is like that it gets used a lot like in universities and stuff like that, where it's just like, this is I think it's just a very clear way of sort of going like, this is one way, one can say from the liberal standpoint of like viewing capitalism and like viewing sort of what sort of the negative, elements are from capitalism in society. And so, yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
No,
well, I'm going to have to check out the movie. Sounds up my alley.
Yeah. No, I think it's kind of like, in a sense, it's like required sort of viewing, because it's a very strong concept, and when you see it, you get a better idea of like, why do we have all of these big companies that continuously have to like post quarterly profits, but like, why do we have to have double-digit growth all the time? Like, that's not natural. And there's other ways of having good things or growth in the world. There's other ways of doing these things, and so it also looks a little bit like like at the global commons and stuff like this, where things back in the day and even now, where things can be shared, and we can have other organizations, other constructs like cooperatives and stuff like that can also provide a lot of beneficial stuff to society. It doesn't just have to be sort of the corporate side of things where people pay for things, and then and then we get to deal with the fallout of what what that actually means to what happens to the planet, etc., when we're just like on this runaway train. So
wow. What a great message to end on tonight, and we didn't even get any trolls from it, so that's great all around. Jack, perfect timing. Jack, is there anything you would like to say before we head off into the sunset?
Oh man, so I did beat Split Fiction with my son. It was an awesome ending. They stick the landing. I highly recommend it. If you
excited for that one.
You said, Leonard, if you liked if you like It Takes Two, Split Fiction is a great one of those games from the same team.
Awesome.
And I just started playing like I said, getting into Final Fantasy 16, so trying to really it's got its hooks in me now. Like I'm 8 hours in, and
But how is the music? Because Nobuo,
the music is actually really good. Like the main battle theme is literally stuck in my head now, and it's
awesome.
It's a really good one.
I love when the battle themes get in your head. That's great. You actually look forward to the battles instead of like, another one.
Yes.
So, Logan, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah. So I checked out the season 1 of Daredevil, first 3 episodes of it for the first time this week. Is doing some research for a short that I'm going to be DPing in a couple of weekends. It's an homage to it, and I am addicted now. It's a great show. So yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out.
I just finished it up this weekend to get ready for Andor, and yes, it ends really well. Like, it really sets things up.
I need to see the new episode of Andor too.
Yeah, no, Daredevil is brutal. Like that is because you're just basically watching a normal like blind dude getting the crap kicked out of him a lot.
It was like so refreshing though, because you're not used to seeing superheroes portrayed that way, and it was amazing.
No, it is amazing. It is really amazing. It has just a great human side of it. So I think especially the first season I really like too. And from an audio person's perspective, that's an amazing, thing to watch, because they just work sound design in it in an amazing way. A lot of the stuff is like when you listen closely to the sound design, things are really heightened when he's tuning in on things and like trying to figure out where people are. Then also when he's wounded, whole, the design changes. And anyways, I really like that.
I thought it was so amazing how they were able to just direct you to what he was saying through sound. Yeah.
So cool. I love when they focus on sound. So right. And Darria.
So I went to see Sinners last night.
Oh, how was it?
Absolutely fantastic. And the score, I loved the score for it.
Yeah.
And the story of the score too, starting from the beginning, and how like the change in instruments, like it was really, really good. And it's definitely something I want to see again, and I want to buy it on 4K. Like I'm definitely gonna get.
Nice.
But no, it was absolutely worth it. Definitely see it in theaters too.
Expect nothing, nothing less from Ryan Coogler. So awesome. He was my classmate at SC. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow, nice.
Awesome dude. Awesome dude. But Leonard, anything you'd like to say before we head off?
Oh gosh, no, not so much. I mean, yeah, thanks so much for having me on. It's been a while. Yeah, I don't know. I guess if you want to get in touch with me, you can just look at videogameaudio.com. It's probably the easiest. And obviously, if you want to learn about game audio, you can join my school. That's fine. And similarly, looking forward to Andor season 2, because the first one was just like, to me, that the first season was great because it felt like the anti-Star Wars, and it felt like Star Wars for actual adults.
Yeah.
Like, there's the scene in the room when they're basically, like the bad guys, because it also makes it nebulous who's bad and who's good. But when they're in that circular room and there's the takedowns that are repeated, I'm just like, ooh, dang! This is zingers, and you're just like, oh man, this is good stuff.
I watched the first 3 episodes last night. I stayed up way too late. You will not be disappointed. It really picks up, and Tony Gilroy's great. He's the perfect guy for that.
I may just go start watching those after this.
You should.
Do it. Awesome.
Nice.
Well, thank you so much, Leonard, for being on the show tonight. It was so much fun, and again, learned a lot just like last time. So really appreciate your time, and everyone else out there. Get ready to buy your Switch 2s, I guess. Coming soon. Pre-orders tonight in about half an hour. So,
Sweet.
see you all next week on The Game Show.